is Henri Plat. J'étais né en Belgique le 8 septembre 1931. What I said is my name is Henri Plat. I was born September 8th, 1931 in Brussels, Belgium. My family moved to France early in my childhood. And I went to school with my two brothers, Jack and Ben. And we lived in Paris in a nice little apartment, a walk-up. And it was very nice. We were very happy until the war started in 1940. My father joined the French army, and my mother, who was home with us, had fallen and injured her leg and developed into gangrene because she was afraid to go to the hospital. By the time she went to the hospital, it was already too late, and so she passed away in March of 1940. My father had to go back to his company. He tried to find someone to take us in. And this we learned later on that he had asked his sister, and she said she couldn't. And there were no other relatives that he could ask. If my aunt had taken us in, we would have been killed along with her children. So it was a very fortunate event that she did not take us in, and that allowed us to survive by her saying she just doesn't have the room or can't take care of us. It forced my father to find another way to put us in a home. The Chateau Majolier was located right in the middle of France. I mean, it was, and there was nothing around. It was all farms. You know, you would say that no one would ever find you there. You know, but the Germans were able to penetrate. You know, all the Jewish people. For whatever reason, how they knew, we don't know. But they knew the Germans were going to come and run up the children, so that's why they started evacuating the Jewish children. I do remember that when I was young, going to school at 4 o'clock, we were given a piece of bread with a piece of chocolate in it. I look forward to that. I mean, that was big, that was a big thing, you know. We were there from 1940 till 1941, and the reason that we left is because the Germans had started going, they were actually rounding up the Jewish children. We went from Creuse, which is this province, we went to Marseille, and from Marseille we went to Spain, and then Lisbon, Portugal, and we took a ship called the Serpa Pinto. The ship convoys, the first one that left were the ones that were, they knew that they had no parents at all. Either the parents disappeared or they were both killed. And so that was the first. What they did is like it was like grading. The first convoy were the children who had no parents at all. The second one were children who may have had one party, but they couldn't find anybody to take them. The third one was the one we went on to, was the one where they knew that my father was still alive and he was a prisoner of war. So those children were the last of the children that they were able to escape, you know, from France. And I wanted to point out that there were so many children that perished. There was only 250 children who survived. 11,000 died. It took 2 weeks to get to the United States, and we landed in New York in September, the end of September, around September 23rd, 1941. I remember being seasick And my brother Ben used to eat whatever food I didn't have. He would eat, and we would. I don't remember much about the ship other than when we landed, and we were so happy to see the Statue of Liberty. We were all, oh, here's the Statue of Liberty. We're here, you know. And you wondered how children are able to survive without their parents, but because we were all together, everybody in the same boat, you know, everybody was. So I guess, because I don't remember being lonely or crying, you know, for my father or my mother. I don't remember, and I take it to mean that I was surrounded by other children. They were in the same position. So when we left the ship, we were sent to an orphanage in Pleasantville called Pleasantville. And we were there for a very short time. I really don't know how long, maybe a month. And at that time, we got a little bit of appreciation of what English meant, or how it was spoken. We still couldn't believe that it was a language, because we spoke only French, and we saw how what kind of food that was eaten. We always laughed at the cornflakes and the Wheaties, but we liked it. We liked it, that straw, because it was sugar and milk. You know, it was. But we got used to it pretty quickly. Of the children that went to Pleasantville, which I presume all the 50 children went, they were dispersed into various orphanages in the United States. My brothers and I were sent to California, and we were placed in a home in West Los Angeles called Vista Del Mar. There was very few orphans. They were primarily children from broken homes, and on the weekends the parents would come and visit. They would take the children out. We didn't have anybody, but we were never really upset about it. I mean, you know, and many times we would say to each other, "Gee, we're lucky. We don't have to worry about abusive parents or parents who." I mean, I think that at one point, maybe many, more than one point, we thought that maybe someone would adopt us. You know, we thought, maybe somebody will come and we'll go to a nice home. But it never really bothered us very much. At least I think not. Maybe it did, but we don't admit it to ourselves. I don't know. Ben I think was 8 years old. I was 10. I think there's about 18 months difference between Ben and me. And Jack, there's about 4 years difference. Jack was 14. And during that particular stage, 4 years means a lot. He wasn't he didn't do much association with us because we were younger, you know. And but Ben and I were closer in age, and so Ben and I we were always together. So that's one thing that we always talk about, Ben and I. Ben, who's now old. My father didn't know where we were. The last information he had is when we lived in Montmorency, which was a little orphanage near Paris. So he had no idea that we were still alive. We didn't know whether he was alive or not either. We had no idea, and it wasn't until we received letters in the United States that he was alive and he wasn't a prisoner of war. Because during the time he was a prisoner of war, he was able to write. So he found people who wrote either in French or in English. At first, he was written by French soldiers. After that, we had letters written by American soldiers who had met him. We sort of became more steeled to the fact that we're never going to see him. That so you know it was another thing that we accepted without much emotion. You know, I said, all right, so you know we'll make it. You know, we never thought that he would come over and resume his role as a father, and we would have a home. This letter was written on August 25th, 1943, and I wrote it when we first came over. Dear Papa, how are you feeling? We are always fine. We speak very good English. Yeah, I also wrote you and get along fine in America. The summer here is very hot. We go swimming almost every day. We receive all your letters, and we are very happy to hear from you. We hope that the war will be over soon. And we'll see you again. We have been in California about 2 years. We have many friends, and Mrs. Herman is very, very nice. We are good boys in school. And obey Mrs. Herman. Boy, my English was not that great. We have much toys, and I treat her very nice. I've been writing, and Benjamin wants me to write for him. We have much fun here. And I'm very good in school. I got good grades in school. I have finished reading a book named Robinson Crusoe, the same book I had in France. We see many shows. A boy came in the same boat we did, and he is coming for my anniversary, which means my birthday. In French, when you say anniversary, anniversaire, that means birthday. A million kisses, your loving son, Henri Plat. Trying to think. I think he was liberated. I think when the war ended, because I know he tried to escape a couple times, but he was always brought back. So I think when the war ended, all the prisoners of war came back home. That's how he left. The way he found out that we were still alive, the Red Cross found out, and they sent him information. So he then found out we were. Someone had written him a letter saying the children are safe with Uncle Sam. He was just one of the victims of the war, and it never he was never able to escape the tragedy that befell him. And the fact that he missed out on the ability to see his children grow, I think, also was a big factor, because he didn't see his children for 10 years. You know, so that must have affected his feelings, I guess, and it was a sad situation. When my father was finally, when he managed to come over in 1951, we knew about it, and we were contacted, and I went to pick him up with my brother Ben in New York. And when I saw him come, I said I couldn't believe it was him, because he looked so different. He was such a small little man when I remembered him as a big, tall, with his uniform. That's why when he came off the boat, I said, "I can't be him. It's not possible. He's an imposter." he took over. You know how sometimes you hear stories about people taking over other people's identities in order to survive the guilt or whatever. I always had suspicion that maybe this is not my father. You know, this little guy can't be him. What did they do to my father? It was really sad because I realized that that's him and that he had suffered so much, you know. But I never felt really deprived. And even when I was in the orphanage, you know, I always felt fortunate, I guess, you know, and not because of the fact that I survived the war or survived the Nazis, because we never really suffered. We never were thrown into a situation where you read about. And even when we were in the United States, we had never heard that this was happening until much later. You know, that there were very few people that had that information. And even though it was happening all over, maybe the government, I'm sure, knew, but we had no idea that the Jews were being murdered at all. And so, and here we were the ones affected. They had no idea. I've always felt when I go to temple and people are praying to God and thanking God, I say, if there really is a God, and why did He let all these 6 million Jews perish? It's not possible that God would let that happen. So I question that, and I really, I believe in human kindness, but there's so little of it. There's so many people that are bigoted and hurtful that it's hard to be a good person. To believe in God it's tough for me. I wrestle with it many times, and sometimes I say, "No, there can't be a God. He would never let that happen." I have had the opportunities and the things that have happened in my life, I feel have been very kind to me. I've never really suffered like some other people might have suffered. I never felt unloved by parents, which I didn't have. And I'm sure that shaped the way my character is. I've always felt that that guided me in the raising of my children. I was fortunate enough, to meet Sally, and Sally, being the person she is, she formed a partnership which was strong. She was able to help me make decisions that were helpful in the raising of our children. We had to do it over again, we'd probably make the same mistakes, but you always think that next time I would send those children to military school or send to private school, it would be different. They would be better served, but I'm sure we would make the same mistakes again.